Hi, Paula.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. So we're talking about pranic healing today, and I thought I would interview Paula and have her just inform us and tell us some pranic healing stories so we can get to know a little more about it. So Paula,
Love stories.
yay! So give us a general overview of pranic healing. Like just generally, what is it?
Generally, pranic healing is just a pretty advanced, technologically advanced form of energy healing. Energy meaning this stuff that's all around us, the technology, the things that bring, phone calls, that bring pictures and stories into this little device that we hook on,
Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, that is energy. It's invisible until you have a device which can pick up on it and interpret it. So pranic healing is simply utilizing the life energy that's all around us that you don't even realize you're using already. You're using it naturally, but pranic healing helps us when the body goes off course a little bit. When we get stuck, when we have the energy's not flowing so well, or the mechanisms that utilize that energy start to get bogged down. So kind of like in your car, you have a fan. Every time you got to get your oil changed, they pull the fan out. Oh, it's getting a little dirty. Do you want to fix it? So pranic healing does that. We have energy centers. That's what chakras are called. And they're just basically those mechanisms, and they can get clogged up. So pranic healing helps you unclog those and keep your body functioning as best as it possibly can.
Okay. So what kinds of things clog up your system energetically? Like
Things
what are
that
some
clog.
energetic
So
clogs?
we're going to talk about, we're all very familiar with the fact that we have a physical body.
Yeah.
Right. So there are physical things that can clog us up. For example, people here have high cholesterol causing blood pressure issues because things get clogged like that. If we are feeding our body incorrectly or feeding it junky food, that can energetically clog us. If we are over exercising or under exercising, those are things that in the physical level, right? So energy has a lot of different levels to it. And on the physical level, that's the part that we understand because we can see it and feel it.
Right.
Okay. Then there we have an emotional level. That's the next level that we would talk about. So our emotional energy body would be things like negative thoughts, negative feelings, anger, resentment, all those emotions that are negative. Doesn't mean don't ever experience them, because we're here to experience, but if you get stuck in them, for example, people who, and I don't mean any disrespect to people who are grieving, but some people get stuck in their grief and then can't move on in life. And, sometimes that can seem like a noble thing, but it's really unhealthy and it clogs up our energy centers. And if we just unclog some of that stuckness, we can move forward with joy and still have memories of whoever that person is that we're grieving. So that's what happens on the emotional level. The next level up is your mental body. So it's, I studied physics, so I understand about using your brain a lot, and I love to solve puzzles, and I love to be really smart. And actually, I was very, very much rewarded as I was growing up because I would get all the A's and do all those things. And so for me, it was always a good thing to be super smart.
Yeah.
But guess what? If we're constantly trying to be the smart one and to be in our brain, that's the way that we clog up our energy body on the mental level.
It's always being the problem solver. Yeah.
Or always thinking you have to actually know the answer.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's a faith to the answer. Sometimes it's like, well, I gotta admit that I don't know what I don't know. And I saw that work, but I don't understand it. I'm gonna let go of needing to understand it and just let it work for me.
Surrender.
Oh my goodness. I know, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was a big one. And then the other level of that, and it's thoughts, on the mental level is also when you are thinking negative thoughts, right? So when you're in there and you're just constantly either about yourself or about other people, any negativity that's in the body, those are cloggers for our mental body, for our energy body.
Because you can feel that when you're thinking, I do this exercise when I'm doing thought work where I have people read a list of negative words like sadness, anger, and they'll read this for like 30 seconds and then ask them how they feel. And like you can describe how your body feels. Like people are like, they'll do this, or I feel like heavy, and then I have them read a list of happy words. So you're just reading you're creating that energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's one of the things that Tracy brings up. You know, pranic healing, I think sometimes people believe it's the end all be all, it's all you need to live a healthy life.
Oh.
It's really an underlying complementary system to help you. You might come to Tracy for mind work and be stuck and not even be able to change your mindset because there's so much energy clogging it.
Yeah.
So if we go in and remove the energetic components,
Yeah.
then you can just start to do that mindset work, that positive thought work. And the same thing with eating on the physical level.
Yep.
How many of us have ever, you know, been addicted to a Diet Coke or, you know, that's bad for you, you know, and I mean, addictions on any level. How many of us comfort eat?
Yep.
You know, we know that food's not good for us, but we just can't not eat it.
I love those potato chips.
Right? I was a sugar person. I mean, I literally was killing my body
Yeah.
because sugar was just something I had to have in everything. I didn't realize how much sugar was going in my body until the point where it was shutting down completely. So, but that has an underlying energetic component, which might be in one of the other energy bodies. So pranic healing for me is super fun because I am a puzzle solver. I love solving puzzles.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I was attracted to studying physics, is because you're like, ooh, how does that work and why does it work? So is my inability to eat healthy somehow attached to my stuckness in the mental body,
Oh,
or
yeah.
disconnected from my emotional body?
Yeah.
So with pranic healing, we have tools to address all of those things, which is not something that, well, at least in my experience, I don't know of another modality that can give you the whole picture like that, and the ability to work on any level. Then you can dive in and get to work on changing the food habit, right? Change the energy, then you can change your habit there.
So let's back up a little bit to when was it developed? Who developed it? Like, give me a little bit of the history of it.
So the developer of pranic healing is Master Choa Koksui. He actually began, I believe he began bringing it to the world in 1985. So it's a fairly new modality. He spread pranic healing. He was a Chinese Filipino, so for whatever that is. He was also an engineer, so he was an engineer by trade, and he was a super successful businessman. So
he was originally a Southern Baptist. Am I right?
No, that's Master Ko.
Oh, that's Master Ko.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of his disciples. So,
Okay.
So Master Choa was just an incredible teacher, and in his lifetime, which was fairly short by our standards, but I'm going to explain that in just a second. So he lived to the age of 52, 53, I believe, and just passed in the early 2000s. So again, fairly new. But in his lifetime, he was able to spread pranic healing. He wrote several books, which were, the teachings are anchored in the books versus anchored in a place or in a church or in a facility. Because if it's in a book, it can get to anywhere, to anyone, right?
Yeah.
So it was a brilliant way to anchor in the teachings. And throughout that time, he spread this to 52 countries. So think about that. Yeah, in one person's lifetime, before cell phones, before email, before, I mean, the old school buy a ticket and go to a place and, so.
Bring your paper ticket.
Right? So it's pretty amazing as I stop and think about, wow, the mechanics of that, there really must be some power and truth behind it, or it wouldn't have taken off like it has. So.
Well, and one of the things I loved when I did the training was that the first thing that our teacher said was, you don't have to believe anything that I say. You should try this and practice this and see if it works, and then believe it for yourself.
Yes.
So that's, I think, another reason why it takes off, because just the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
Just try it.
Yes. And you know, it's like she says, there's many people, how many times have we gone, we're like, I don't like that. But have you actually tried it?
Yeah.
Did you actually give it a chance? And the experimentation component of pranic healing is just wonderful. The order of how you begin to learn pranic healing, there's a system to that too. There's a system to everything. And the other thing Master Cho was able to do was to take these big, really big concepts.
Because he studied with lots of different practitioners.
Well, he studied
healing.
all of the. He kind of went through all the world's energy healing modalities. He's like, why does this work? He had an interest in healing at a very early age, and so he was looking and seeing and going, why does this work? He had that puzzle solver mind. What's going on here? Instead of just blindly taking it, because he also says that, like, yes, do the experiments, but he also says, don't just blindly believe it.
Yeah.
Right? Just question, do it. And so in doing that process, he came across, like, what's the parallels, what's going on with all of the healing technologies that work, because there's more than one thing to help you get healed. So, okay, this is not only pranic healing, but what pranic healing did was take the good things that are in everything and boil it was kind of like a distillation to make it more potent and more powerful. Because the other thing Master Choa believed was, you know, in the world today, he saw the world is going modern. He saw that things are speeding up, right? Is everything sped up? We have to know more. We've got these devices that tell us everything about everything. Life is moving faster than it was, let's say, half a century ago, right? Yeah. He saw that need for the world to have more healers more quickly. And to be a shaman, let's say, you would have to go to the rainforest, live there for 20 years. And then maybe, if you were good enough, your master might give you a little tidbit on how to be a healer.
Right.
We don't have time.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. I mean, you want to go live in the Amazon 20
I don't.
years? No.
I don't.
So with pranic healing, in the course of one weekend, as you start to take the classes and you take the basic training, in one weekend, you come out with tools to help people immediately. You know, even overnight, like in between the 2 days, some people will go home and come back with stories of like, I did this on my husband and it worked.
Like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he took lots of different modalities, and he was in the Philippines, right?
Yes.
And then he tested them at the center, and he worked on people and tried different things.
Yes.
And tested them,
yes.
and then came up with these, you call them recipes, I love that word, in the book about how to do a healing for whatever it is that ails you. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it was, you know.
So he created that process.
He created that process, and again, he's only teaching us things that he did himself.
Yeah.
So that was one of the challenges with his body. He was experimenting on his own body to make sure it was safe to work on other people. And in the Philippines, he had, you know, different clairvoyants, different energy workers working with him. I'd say today we call it a triple blind study.
Yeah, we're in the city, so we have a really, I think it's FedEx going over right now. So, okay, triple blind study.
Triple blind study. So as Master Choa was seeing if his recipes, if his healing recipes worked, he would go out and he would work on different people in different places and have independent observers, not only the person he's healing, but independent observers looking and seeing what's happening. So only the recipes that could work over and over again get put in the book. So if you go to that and you open it up, you say, okay, I need to help this person with a stomach ache. Then you see the steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's how you help somebody with a stomach ache. Even if you have no idea that you're a healer, if you follow those steps, you can help somebody with a stomach ache.
Because anyone can do this work.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to be special.
No special.
I'm not special.
I know, right?
Dang.
I know, it's a little tough for us, but you're special, let's put it this way.
In a different way?
Well, you're special just because you raised your hand and said, I think I'd like to try, right? And it is challenging because, you know, you'll see people like Tracy, people like myself. I've been working with pranic healing for 4.5 years now. And that's not really a long time compared to some of my teachers who've been working for 15 and 20 years. And at the beginning, I was comparing myself to them like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to do that. I better not try. And I do see that happening in a lot of my students. You know, I taught gymnastics for a long time.
Yeah, let's talk about your background.
Oh, okay. Well,
work that in.
Go ahead
and then.
So one of my understandings about how to become a healer comes from teaching a lot of kids how to do gymnastics. So they'll come into and they're like, you know, parent, I want to be a college gymnast. Okay, well you're 3. But versus let's close the door on college gymnastics because it's hard. Okay, how do we open as many doors as we can to get you to that ultimate goal? Which halfway through the process, you are more than welcome to say, whew, this is harder than I thought. That's not actually what I want to do. Here comes another.
Yeah.
So the thing with pranic healing is the same. You'll come in, you'll see the class, you'll see the instructor who can do healings very easily, right? But that's because they've done it for 20 years and they've taken little teeny tiny steps along the way, right? So that's where I began the same thing. I took a class. I happened to be able to work with people anyway. I was teaching Pilates and gymnastics at the time. So I was just like, hey, can we try something? And we'd experiment. And I would say, what hurts? We would do one of the techniques. All of pranic healing is literally 2 things. That's what Master Choa is beautiful at. He just simplified stuff down.
Yeah.
You cleanse, you sweep stuff off, you clean it out, and then you energize it. The end. If you're familiar with Reiki, I know that's a question that people ask, how is this like Reiki? Reiki, in general, it may be shifting at the moment, but Reiki is very similar to pranic healing, but it's mostly just energizing, right? And for those of you who are shoppers, your closet gets full, you want to go shopping, there's no room to put the new stuff. So you have to clean out the closet first. Okay, and that's what we do with our energy body. We take all that stuff that's gunking us up, we clean it out first, and then you put the fresh stuff in. That's how healing works. That's all you have to know. Literally, that's all you have to know. But then you could go as far as advanced pranic healing, where you then learn, a 25-step protocol for how to help somebody with cancer.
Yeah.
So you can go from super, super simple, that's all I can handle right now, start helping somebody. And then you're like, wow, I really liked that. And what does that do for you? If I'm a gymnast, I'm like, oh, I finally learned my forward roll. Maybe I can do a handstand, right? So you gain these little confidence. Oh, I can do a handstand. What about a cartwheel, right? So it's the same thing. And then before you know it, you take all those little baby steps and you're doing double backflips, right? That's all it is with healing. And when you walk in the gym, it can be overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do that. I think I'll not start. Think about what that means if everybody decided they couldn't be a healer. We're now slowing down the process of healing, not just ourselves, but our families, our community. And when we have healthy communities, we have a healthier world. So you can get into that, big mindset of like, wait a minute, if I just do this one little step myself, I'm helping the world. Yes, absolutely. So.
And one of the things that I learned in training is that, because some people are more sensitive than others, I've met people who don't have any training in energy work, but they can, like my husband pulled a headache out of my head one time, and he doesn't have any training in energy work. So I feel like he has natural, powerful abilities. A lot of people don't. And even, was it Master Choa that said for 4 years he didn't feel the energy at all?
Master Ko, yeah.
Master Ko. I always get them confused.
I know.
So Master Ko didn't feel it at all, but he said you don't have to feel to heal.
Correct.
So anyone can be a healer.
Yeah.
You don't have to have special abilities.
Right, and it's based on your own sensitivities. So, these are those things that you just don't know that you don't know. And all that's required to have greater ability to heal is simply that you have opened yourself up more to allow more energy in. In other words, instead of me being a little phone device, maybe I'm a big, strong, powerful Mac. I don't know what that, if there's something to talk about there. And there are ways to, pranic healing also helps you to safely open yourself up to more energy. So a lot of times people can become very open through different means that are not as careful. And so for those of you that have heard maybe like, oh, I'm an empath, I'm so sensitive, I just can't go out in public. Yeah. That's somebody who's gotten open to sensitivity too fast without knowing what to do with it or how to handle it, right? And so often those people will have these ability to pull a headache out because they're already connected, but their body hasn't caught up with their ability to pull down the energy. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I love how, so I was talking to a healer, she does another modality, and she was saying that when she does these healings, that she's exhausted. Like it'll take her 1 or 2 days to recover her energy after she does this healing. And in pranic healing training, there is a lot of emphasis on how to keep yourself energetically clean and not get the dirty energy on you, and to cleanse yourself. So I love that too. And my experience is that I have never felt anything but energized after doing healing.
Yes.
It makes me feel energized and amazing.
Yes.
When I give, which is so cool.
So that goes back to, when we want to help people, we also know that there's people who only help others and do that at the sacrifice of themselves. Yeah. And again, sometimes that has been, glorified or whatever. Yeah. Like, oh, you're such a great person. You just are sacrificing yourself for giving. Others. Yeah. But if you're weak, you can't really help other people. Yeah. So to embody the fact that, oh, I am not only worthy, but maybe there are things about me that aren't perfect. And so while I'm doing these healings, I'm going to allow some of that energy to come in to heal me at the same time while I am helping another person. So that's another mindset. It's another chance to be very honest with yourself, that maybe you have some shortcomings, and that maybe this whole process of learning how to heal others comes back to because you also need to heal in yourself. The two always go hand in hand. So
yeah. Okay, I want to know a little bit about your experience, because I think it's interesting what you mentioned, physics,
I did.
and you mentioned gymnastics, and then now we're into this what is seemingly might be like woo-woo energetic stuff, like what the heck. So tell me just a little bit about that journey.
So how did I get here?
Yeah. When did you find out about this? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I've been in gymnastics for a really, really long time. I've been teaching Pilates. I've been helping people. I've always had a desire to help people be better, to be their best selves. And there came a time in my life, it was 6 years ago, I'm not sure. And I was coming through, I had a 17-year-old daughter. I had a husband who decided he wanted another family. So the whole concept of divorce came up. And so that was one of those, moments in life where you're like, what's going on?
The rock bottom. Was it a rock bottom, would you say?
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my mindset has shifted around it so much. I have a really hard time even speaking words that normally people would use. And I've recognized that about myself. So yeah, I had to go through a divorce with, a problem, and I was losing my daughter because, sometimes they like who they like, and it wasn't me, and it was very difficult. So I was spit out of a lot of family very quickly. And what struck me was I would see some of my friends who maybe had been divorced for years, decades, still angry and bitter. And I was like, I think that there must be a better way to do this. And I just I just set the intention, I'm going to do this better, because that's not how I want my child to see me. I need for her to see me being completely broken. So yes, rock bottom, broken for sure. Being completely broken emotionally, and how am I going to come out of that? I want her to see me grow up into a great person, because I'd also seen that modeled somewhere along the way. People come through these difficulties and then they're just like amazing people. Yeah. So what's the difference? And when I set that intention, we were at a national gymnastics event, and a colleague of mine said, you should check out this pranic healing thing. There's this teacher online. I was like, okay, whatever. And so I did. And I fell in love with this online teacher. His name is Christian Long. He's still out there, and he's helped a lot of my friends actually subsequently. And I ended up watching him online, doing meditations for a little while. And I was like, I think I want to work with him. And
Had you done meditation before?
No, not a meditator, not a yoga person. All stuff was silly. Like, no way, that's not who I am. I did not have any type of spiritual practice. I grew up in the Methodist church. I loved to sing at church. That was meditative for me. I didn't realize what I was getting out of it. So yeah, I was coming from a space of, I have no idea what this is. I've never heard of this stuff before.
Okay.
And within, literally a few short weeks, I plopped down a sum of money to work with this person.
Wow.
So I did a private transformation session for 10 weeks. But I will tell you, after the first 3 weeks, I was in. I signed up for my first pranic healing class. I was like, whoa. Now, a month later, I was doing the second and third, and I had driven all the way to Minneapolis and ended up in a blizzard, and ended up having a sleepover with the teacher and the host, and the dog died that weekend. So there was a lot of things that were like, this is really interesting how things are shifting along for me, and how quickly I was feeling happy.
Oh,
How quickly I was feeling not resentful. I wasn't complaining to my friend. I was just moving forward with me. And it came along with a lot of, oh gosh, I acted like that? A lot of self-awareness that I would never have gotten to had I said I'm holding on to the anger and resentment. I was willing enough to say I want to do this differently. And so what happened was, through these teachings, enough of the ouch, right? So energy can be painful. You keep that ugly stuff in you, and then it's painful, and you don't want to touch it, and you don't want to look at it, and that's when you're like, I'm not forgiving that person. That's because there's too much of that dirty energy within you. So through pranic healing and getting some of those layers off, then you're able to go in and investigate without the pain. Does that make sense? It's a lot easier to become self-aware. It's a lot less painful. I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. It took some work. But
Yeah.
simultaneously, Tracy, I had a group of people, and I just kept doing healings on them. And guess what I noticed? This
What?
is the big one. Every time I went through a massive shift in self, a massive breakthrough of like, oh my gosh, I'm like a selfish person. I'm wearing my Attitude of Gratitude shirt today because I never used to have much gratitude for anything. And it's
And
fascinating.
if you don't know Paula, she has a lot of gratitude now.
I do. And I don't even know what it is. So every time I went through that process, I'm like, oh gosh, these people were all trying to help me. And I was so mean to them. And ouch, that hurts. And then I would go in and I would do a healing on somebody. Oh my gosh, the results just start getting better and better and better and better. It was incredible. So that's because I was opening my pipeline. I was allowing more stuff to flow through. Now I'm helping people with things I never thought I'd be able to help them with before. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's where we are.
Wow. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, so we know how it got developed, we know a little bit about your story. So what is, and what pranic healing is. So what do you do when you're, like if I'm like, Paula, will you do pranic healing on me? Because this sounds pretty cool. Like what would you do?
Well, I think
Where?
I think we should do an experiment with everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing, guys. We're gonna do this quick little experiment.
Okay.
And yeah, what would I do? So remember I told you everything is cleansing and energizing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool. So what I'd like for you all to do is just kind of take your arm. You ready?
Yes.
And I just want you to smack it until it turns red. Just
Okay.
smack it. You feel it? You feel the sting?
Yes.
Okay, boom. So this is our imaginary ailment that you're coming for me to heal you now. Got
Okay.
it? Okay. So all I want you to do is take this hand. So we got the hurt arm and we've got the good arm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want you just to imagine, just think about your crown for a second on top of your head. Okay. And then think about your hand, the palm of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a light that's coming down through your head and it's coming out through your hand. And I just want you to use that like it's a flashlight and just start kind of sweeping, gently sweeping off that area that you made to sting. Maybe it turned pink a little bit. Yep. Just sweep it. Sweep it, sweep it. Okay. So we swept about, what, 20, 30 times there?
And what did you do when you just did
Oh, I just kind of like, so I'm it's like a dustpan. Pick up the dust and just throw it away.
Okay.
Yeah, you can imagine throwing it in the ocean somewhere. Okay. All right. So, anybody notice a difference in your arm?
Mm-hmm.
Did the sting go down a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So maybe not all the way yet, right?
Yeah, I still
Okay.
feel something.
All right. So now we've got our crown, and you've got your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and just aim it at that place,
Mm-hmm.
and just shine the light on it. Just gently let that light penetrate through the stinging. I'm feeling it on myself. All right, so how's that feel?
It feels good.
Yeah.
Like I can literally feel it.
Mhm.
Not everyone can though, right?
No, you might not be feeling anything at all, right? Other than, wow, it's a little bit less red. So that's what we do in a healing. That's what you did on yourself. So all that would be different is that Tracy comes in, she says, here's what I want to work on. And so I bring out my hands and I start sweeping her. So I'm going to sweep her in the little secret place. Yeah, because there's things I can't teach, you know, I can't teach you the stuff, but it looks like this. I'm sweeping her. Feeling better yet? We didn't even talk about what she might need to feel better at.
Because Paula probably just magically knows.
And then we would energize that area. And then we would check and see, like, okay, does it feel better? Now, sometimes healing feels better right away, but other time there's a lag time. So it's kind of like when you put, you know, oil through a funnel, it takes a little while for it to sink in. So your healing effects might not show up for 24 hours or so, right? Again, that has to do with your body's particular sensitivity. And when we say sensitivity, you know, you can think of it this way. Some people are visual. Some people really love to get their information through their eyes, okay? Other people are auditory. They love to get their information through the ears. Some people need to talk all the time. Those are our sensitivities, and it's the same thing in the energetic world. You may or may not physically feel something. You may or may not be able to see energy. That's called clairvoyance, right? So you can develop that sense too. Same thing with, you may be able to hear things, okay? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good,
That
good.
helps. So, and you don't even have to be, I don't even have to be in the same room as you
Yeah.
for you to do healing.
I didn't touch her, right?
Right.
Right. So you don't
So it's
have
no
to touch.
touch.
Yeah. And that is what comes across, this is another reason why I dove in full force. A, I was getting results for myself. B, I was having results with people immediately. C, it made perfect sense because I studied physics. And when we got to the classes which were about quantum physics, where everybody's like, we don't understand this at all. This doesn't make sense. How can something that happens in China affect something that's in Belgium?
Yeah.
Right? How does that happen?
Yeah.
And it's quantum field theory, right? And even our scientists don't have the mathematics for that. So what my professor said to me as I was graduating and leaving with a physics degree, yeah, basically we don't understand anything. Oh, so there was the seed planted for my mental body to let go at some point and to go into the state of faith, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why Master Choa says, well, if you don't believe it, try it. If it works for you, keep doing it. If it doesn't, discard that for now, right? So go try it with somebody in the other room. Did it have an effect? Great. If it didn't, there might be reasons why, but it's okay. You don't have to have all that working. But
Because in pranic healing, you don't guarantee healing. You don't guarantee results because it's up to my body and soul to use whatever healing you're offering. Is that how you would explain that?
Yes,
Okay.
the person who is receiving the healing has to be open and receptive. And if there are reasons why that person A is, if they're not karmically entitled, that's one thing, which we don't have any say so over. But if somebody's just holding on to these mental thoughts and not willing to let go of them at all, then it's going to be more difficult for the healing to sink in. So that's another reason why this is a complementary modality.
Yeah.
Because again, Western medicine is really good. Like if you have a broken arm, don't just sweep it. Get it set. Yeah. And sweep it.
Right. Right.
So yeah, there's all of healing needs to work together, and I think that's another. It's another thing that excites me about pranic healing is because I think it's the modality that can bring these things together, allow people to see eye to eye and to work together.
And our teacher is a doctor.
Our teacher is a doctor of osteopathy, surgical. He's allowed to do surgeries, and so he uses his particular sensitivity, his particular strength is that he's super detail oriented. Yeah. At one point could map all of the blood vessels in the body within 5 minutes. Like that's pretty cool. So he takes that level of precision as a surgeon and brings it to the healing world, which has been fantastic. I love having that as a teacher. Yeah. It's at times overwhelming because my brain has a hard time getting that detailed. But this is what I needed, and it's what our community has needed. So there's that. My other teacher that I worked with online has a very different approach. Works very much more in the emotional body, which was what I needed at that time. So,
and the teachers. Another thing I found interesting is that the teachers all over the world, there are not that many, and to get to the level that our teacher is, it's results oriented.
Yes.
Not just time spent doing trainings, which is important and also included, but you have to have proven results.
You have to have proven results. You submit your cases, and also, if you notice, so one of the things in pranic healing is this scanning. We use our hands to feel what's going on in the body. We can sense the energy center, we can sense the aura, we can sense where there's those blockages that we talked about. You can literally, as you continue to move forward, your hands will sensitize. It might take years, but they will do it. Yeah. And then you can see where the issues are, right? So if you think about that, so my teacher can literally scan me to know what I am and am not working on. He would be able to know if I'm asking to work on something. He can tell if I'm being honest or if I'm fully really working on a particular spot. So if you think about then the level of my teacher, his teachers are scanning him to see if he's ready for the next level and ready to teach those things. So it's kind of a built-in, what's that word? Honor system. Yeah. And then that happens as you go through, once you do the pranic healing levels, you move into the spiritual classes, which are Arhatic Yoga. It's called the Arhatic Yoga. That's the sister school, it goes along with the pranic healing classes. This is your spiritual development, spiritual growth and development. And each of those classes you apply for. You literally send an application which says, here's how many times a week I'm meditating. Here's what I do. Here's the books I've read, because it's about being well-rounded. And then there's 8 world masters, just
Okay.
8 in the world, and one of them scans you to see if you're ready for that level.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. And then you practice that level for 2 years, minimum 2 years, before you can apply to the next level. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. And it's, I will say, having gone through that application process, it's like, oh, are they scanning me now? I wonder if they're scanning me now.
What are they finding now? What are they finding now? Now, you don't have to go, you can still help people without going to that level.
Yep.
And then you mentioned the spiritual work. So a question that I get a lot is like, is this religious? Is this like, is that, what is that you're doing? Like, are you working with God? What, can you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just actually got to come back from taking one of the classes, one of the higher classes is called it's a class on the Lord's Prayer.
Wow.
Yeah, fascinating. There are also classes called Inner Hinduism Revealed, Inner Buddhism Revealed. And basically, here's what Master Choa says. So there's one level of truth to things, right? So let's say, Tracy, you and I are in Indianapolis right now. So that is contained within this first level of truth. Then I go to the next level of truth. It's also true that we are in the state of Indiana, correct? And that holds, we are in Indianapolis. It doesn't make I'm in Indianapolis untrue. It just is a bigger truth. And then there's even a bigger truth in that. I am in the United States. So when we talk about, is this religious? It's a higher level of truth. Okay, so just like here's Catholic, right? And then here is Christianity. It's a bigger level of truth, which encompasses Catholicism and Methodist and this and that and the other. And then the bigger level of truth is this is spiritual.
Okay.
And so that's where we include Islam and Christianity and this. So the answer is no, it's not religious at all. However, what I love that Master Glenn said in class, when you study pranic healing and when you start to open yourself up to this higher spiritual teachings, you become a better Catholic. You become a better Christian. Because it's like, wow, there's all the teachings that are behind these stories. If anybody out there is, if you're a questioner, like, did that really happen? Was that actually possible? Then you're on the level where you're ready to listen to the next level of truth, which isn't always taught within the doors of the church, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. So there are also atheist pranic healers?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you don't have to be religious or believe in a higher power to...
On some level, you can't not. You're right.
Once you get into it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that thing, and I'm in physics, and we're supposed to understand everything, and here's what we're going to say, and then all of a sudden, all of the mathematical formulas blow up. So that's going to happen to you. And actually, it's happened to a friend of mine who is a staunch atheist, loves healing, and absolutely is a great receiver, and is actually referring, and is actually starting to think about taking class for herself. So yeah. It just makes you a better whatever you are. How's that sound?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I remember the teacher that did the pranic psychotherapy class that I did said that when she first got into this, she's been doing it a long time, like in the 90s, I think, that Paul's been talking, was it Master Choa that she was working with?
Master Choa, yep.
Master Choa that she was working with. And she said, I'm not calling you master because I am a Christian and I have one master and I will not call you master.
Yes.
And he's like, that's fine. And then she said, then I did trainings and I understood what pranic healing was about and was able to so she still is a Christian and also a pranic healer, but you don't have to believe in any religion.
And how beautiful.
I just love how inclusive it is.
Yeah, well, that's what Master Choa, that's part of what pranic healing is about. Master Choa understands God or the universe or the source on a bigger level of truth than any of us can. And so when we start to understand bigger levels of truth, what happens? He understood her. He understood what levels she could understand, right? And this is what will happen as you start to go through this process. All of a sudden, you don't see the differences between people. We don't judge people. We just see them as, oh, you're at that state of evolution, that you're at that state of understanding. Okay, cool. I'll talk to you on that level. Because you can't expect somebody who's only stuck in the first level of truth to talk to you on the third level. It won't work. So it's up to, again, us as those who are asking, those who are seeking. If you're listening, you're already forward moving. So
Yeah.
you might have to just own that.
A seeker. Yeah.
Own your special.
You're a seeker if you're here. Own your special. Okay, another question that I hear a lot of people say is, okay, so I get that this is energy, and energy is really powerful. Maybe you can tell us a couple of stories. Can you tell us a couple of stories about pranic healing?
Sure. I mean, like in my own family, again, Master Choa wanted us to have one healer per family. And if one person per family raise their hands and goes to start taking and learning pranic healing, that is the magical mathematical tipping point for the world to start healing and to start being a more peaceful place. So I'm feeling a little bit of like, let's do this thing.
Yeah,
right?
we have work to do, people. Sign up for the next class.
So, so in my family, because I thought I wasn't doing it for my family, because I didn't have much gratitude for my family and what they'd done for me. And through this process, I'm like, oh, wow, look what they've done for me. And so I'm working with healing on them, right? So my dad recently went through a cancer. He had a stage 3 cancer lodged in his kidney. It wasn't a kidney cancer, it was something else. And it was pretty fast growing. And he needed chemotherapy and then to have that kidney removed. So the process is you do the chemotherapy to shrink the tumor so that it can be safely removed. And I said, well, Dad, you know, he'd seen me do this weird stuff. I was waving my hands like this at them, and they're like, what are you doing? We don't do that here. I'm like, okay, well, fine. And so as he started his chemotherapy, we were, you know, that scared him enough. You know, sometimes we need to be scared enough or hit bottom enough, like we talked about, to be willing to look at ourselves differently. And, excuse me, the bug in the nose. As he started his chemotherapy, I said, well, you know, we can get to a pranic healing team together and to support what your body's going to be going through. Because the cancer doesn't just show up. You know, anything that's in our body shows up because our energy centers are messed up. They're clogged. And cancer is one that's been clogged for a while. A lot of times, a lot on the emotional plane. So, you know, I'm realizing like, gosh, I'm going to have to help my dad with things like forgiveness and awareness and understanding. That's kind of weird because we don't have that kind of relationship, but okay, I'm going to step up and try. And after his first chemotherapy, he said, I need help. I can't do this. This is terrible. And I said, okay, well, are you ready? I need to help. I need to pay my teacher to be the lead of the team, but we'll get a team together that's healing you. And he's like, yes. So he made the commitment to himself to pay money, and we hired on our teacher to lead our team, and we did the work on him 3 or 4 days a week. I think you were part of that team. And he ended up not needing 4 rounds of chemotherapy, which was planned, but 2. After 2 rounds, we convinced them to give us another scan. The tumor had shrunk. The doctor said, your scans are amazing. Like, who says that? And it was so thrilling. And they got the surgery in like within 1 day before they were going to have to really delay it by months, which was not going to be good. The surgery went shorter than was planned. All margins clear. He needs no extra follow-up of any sort. So, you know,
unbelievable.
Right. We could go back and do that experiment without doing the pranic healing and see what happened, but I don't think that'd be fun.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
So yeah, that's one of the cases of, and the, you know, what goes along with that is the healing that's gone on within my family. And the way that our relationships are now different because we brought in an aspect of forgiveness. We brought in an aspect of understanding. And that's really what, you know, I firmly believe the cancer was here to show us, right? Here's the tool that's going to help this family heal because it needs some help. And we're on a much better footing at the moment. It's been amazing to see. Yeah.
That is literally unbelievable.
It's, one of those.
I mean, when I hear these stories, I'm like,
Yeah, and I kind of warn people, and I'm trying to do it better myself because I say it too. It's unbelievable. And you know, when we say it's unbelievable,
we're creating disbelief.
We're also saying to them, I don't believe in you.
Yeah.
So then I'm no longer entitled to utilize that energy. I'm going to shrink my ability to help.
What do you say instead?
It's awesome.
Awesome.
It's miraculous.
Ooh, I like miraculous.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's
miraculous.
Yeah. And I mean,
I love that. Our words
happened?
are so important. We were talking about earlier about creating thought forms. We learned that in pranic healing psychotherapy, that what you think and what you speak actually literally becomes a real thing. And that's like that. If you're saying unbelievable,
yes, And it becomes again, this Lord's Prayer class was just phenomenal. You know, get your basic pranic healing classes done and just like go for it, and then like go take these cool classes. I mean, although I think you can take the Lord's Prayer class without even having a basic class in, I'm pretty sure, but you have to don't quote me on that one. So the third line in the Lord's Prayer is holy be thy name, or hallowed be thy name. And it's about not taking the Lord's name in vain. And it involves, this is your Ajna chakra, this is your throat chakra. These are two of the energy centers that we've been talking about. And those get clogged up. You asked me how they get clogged up?
Yeah.
They get clogged up, not by stuff we put in, not by things that, we get mad when people say bad things about us. Those words come into it, and then we're blaming that person. What's even more potent and more clogging is what we're about. So if we
like what we create and put out,
what we create in our mind with our thoughts,
yeah,
and then speak into being with our words.
Okay.
So even just in the mind, it's clogging. So whatever it is, we have the ability to create positive or negative. The end. So you might be, just thinking, pretending like you're thinking good thoughts.
Yeah.
Again, that was the thing where I caught myself the most.
Yeah.
I was like, kept running. All these manipulative people were coming into my life. All these dishonest people were coming into my life. I was involved with the, big gymnastics scandal with Dr. Nasser. Knew him as a friend and as a colleague.
Wow.
And that was very difficult for me to go like, gosh, how do I ever decide who is trustworthy? And then through the work, I realized it was another one of those fall on the floor days. I had been lying and manipulating and deceiving myself for so long. I was making up stories and putting myself out there, and I believed it. I had said it so often that I had given it like full on control of everything. So being aware and being able to be honest with what we actually are thinking and saying is a big deal.
I love it. Okay, just a couple of other questions. These are common questions that I get. So one question is, if you were talking about trust, so okay, pranic healing sounds great, but also it sounds really powerful. And what if you're doing it wrong? Like, how do I trust that? And when we're talking about the chakras, when you learn more about pranic healing, the chakras, the energy centers can be, some of them are overactivated, some of them are underactivated, which causes different issues. Well, if the pranic healer doesn't know what they're doing, can they mess things up? So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it all goes back to
there's a level of fear.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think what people have, like, I can't see this. I don't really know what you're doing, and I'm new to this, and I haven't really heard about it, so I'm a little bit scared.
Yep, and rightly so, and you should always walk in with caution. But what I can tell you today is that you only get to be powerful if you are really super connected, and you only get to be really super connected if you are clean. So pranic healing has its own safety net, or safeguards, I guess you would call it. So I can't be a powerful healer until I practice the virtues, until I clean my energy, and I can't get enough energy through to actually hurt you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So until I am clean and pure, not much is going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's in the process. Here's the other thing is, as a receiver, if you come in with those fears, it will also, in a new healer, can activate those in the new healer. So just a way to get more out of your healings is to walk in and to literally invoke, I accept only the positive energies. I accept only that which is from God. And I actually work with a lot of missionaries, and this has been a thing that we've had to do. We've had to talk about, because I knew them before pranic healing, and then I'm like, oh, let's do this. And they're like, what are you doing? That's the exact thing. And are you talking to God? I'm like, well, let me think about, first of all, your level of truth. And then I realized, well, I am. I'm connecting to source, so I think I am talking to God, but I'm not sure, because I can't prove it to you. So I'm not going to say that I have this straight line, but I do know through my higher level of understanding that I am talking through the right channels, And that's where it's coming from. But ultimately, they're asking me, is the source from God? I am not directly plugged in. No, I am not that special. Nobody is. Moses burnt, right? Moses was like, God, let me see you. And he said, no, you'll burn up, right? So you remember that story of the burning bush.
Yeah.
That's what that was all about. It's like we personally, these little human bodies, can't look directly at God because it's way too much energy. We can liken that to our phone. If I take my phone, plug it into the transformer that's up there on the wire, my phone will blow up. So I have to have a series of stepping down of the energy. So that's why when you hear in invocations, you might hear, to the great teachers, to the holy masters, to the gurus, to the archangels, the angels. That's stepping down the energy from God into a form that we can utilize it. So by the time it gets here, we really can't hurt you. And but it is true. If let's say I've learned and I've become a more powerful healer, and I wanted to try to blow somebody up, I could. But at that point, I've cleansed my system enough that desire or that ability to do that is not there.
Okay, that's great.
Excuse me.
All right, if people are interested, if they're like, ooh, this sounds cool, and maybe I want to learn how to do pranic healing, or maybe I want to receive pranic healing, like what would be the next steps? What are some opportunities to learn more?
Right, so, depending on how far you want to dive into it, we have our free first Saturdays where you get to come, you get to do meditation, maybe experience the healing. If what we did today wasn't enough for you and you want to see it in person, that's what we do on first Saturdays, so you can always check that out. Yep, tomorrow.
And where, when? Tomorrow?
Oh, it's Body by Jim Root Studio. That's my studio in Fishers, Indiana. I will probably put the link up somewhere. Yeah. So, and you can always find that. You can always just also check in with Tracy, and she'll let you know when and where, and send you the link for that. It's a hybrid thing, so you can come in person, or you can do it online with us. Either way works. If you are to the point where you're like, well, I think I have this thing, I'd like to start working on it, we can hook you up with one of our healers. So you would schedule an appointment, or you would email Tracy, email myself, and we will put you in touch with a healer. And there's we have some fee structure associated with that. So one session, single sessions, triple, it kind of depends on how hard the malady is. If it's something that's simple to fix, like I said, stomach ache or a migraine or something like that, it might just be one session, and those run about $150. And then it moves up from there. So if you have something that's a little, maybe you've gotten a virus that you want to work on, it's going to take a few healings, and we work up from there. If you got something that's really going on with that immune system, or something of long standing, then we might put you into a contract. So those are some ways that you can work directly with the healer. And then if you'd like to start doing things for yourself, then we have our pranic healing classes, and our next one's coming up the first weekend of October. Mark your calendars. First weekend of October. The basic class, the level 1 class, will be on Friday and Saturday. So I think that's September. How many days has September? 30, I think. So the last day of September, and then October 1st is Saturday, and then the advanced class 30. Will happen on the Saturday and Sunday. And then from there you just take off, You start to do it for yourself. I, excuse me, I've taken lots and lots of classes, and I've reviewed them. By the way, once you take a class, you can review it for the rest of your life for really cheap.
Yeah.
So I think one class is around the $400 mark, and then you get to take it for $50, $75 after that forever. And for me, it's 16 hours worth of healing. So remember I said a migraine costs $150? You take class, you're getting 16 hours of healing for $400. So that alone.
Yeah. It is amazing. And I'm kind of a weenie about a long training, and I mean these are long and they're intense, and there's a lot of work. You do a lot of practicing when you're there. I mean, we start 8, it's 8 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m.
They're long
on
days.
Saturday and Sunday, and then depending on how you're doing it, sometimes it's Friday night also. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I will survive that. I literally don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
And I had energy to spare. Not only was I not tired, but I got healing in the class.
Yes.
Because we practice on each other, and you get healing. You're in the presence of teachers.
Yep.
You're there. Our teacher's there. So it is an amazing experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing. Tracy doesn't know this about me because I seem really energetic now. But when I started pranic healing, I literally had nothing left to spare. I would just do what I had to do, and the rest of the time I was in bed. So I was the same way. I'm like, I don't think I can do these classes. And then poof, I'm like, wait, I am at the end of day 2 and I feel like this. give me more. So, but you, again,
Yeah.
just take that as a way to get in there and then see for yourself if it
Yeah.
works that way for you.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's pretty much how that all goes then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right, we'll be doing more of these because there's a lot of interest in pranic healing, and so Paula and I will be coming on and just digging into it a little bit deeper and looking at different angles. But I think that gives you a little taste of what is pranic healing and how do I get involved, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Tracy, for letting us talk about this, because
Yeah.
Tracy has a beautiful voice. She's got this part with the Holy Be Thy Name really working well for her. So thank you so much for letting us share this with all these people.
Thank you, Paula. Bye.